The ordinary afternoon walk through Riverside Park took an extraordinary turn when 5-year-old Nathan suddenly broke away from his mother's hand and ran toward an elderly man sitting alone on a bench. What happened next would challenge everything the Davis family thought they knew about the nature of consciousness, the bonds between humans and animals, and the possibility that love transcends not only death but even the boundaries between species themselves. Nathan had always displayed an unusual affinity for dogs, showing an intuitive understanding of canine behavior that amazed veterinarians and dog trainers alike. He could calm aggressive animals with a gentle touch, seemed to understand what dogs were thinking before they acted, and often preferred the company of neighborhood pets to other children his age. His parents, Jennifer and Mark Davis, had attributed this to natural empathy until Nathan began making claims that defied all logic. The transformation began when Nathan spotted the elderly man on the park bench and immediately ran toward him, with tears of joy streaming down his face. The man, later identified as 78-year-old Harold Mitchell, was startled when the unfamiliar child threw his arms around him and said, "I missed you so much." "It's me, it's Buddy. I came back to find you." The profound emotion in Nathan's voice was unmistakable, as if he was reuniting with someone he had loved deeply. Harold's reaction was equally shocking. Despite never having met the child before, he felt an immediate and inexplicable connection to Nathan. The boy's eyes held a familiarity that stirred something deep in Harold's heart, reminding him of his beloved German shepherd Buddy, who had died 3 years earlier after 15 years of faithful companionship. The dog had been Harold's constant companion after his wife's death, providing comfort and purpose during his darkest moments. Jennifer rushed to retrieve her son, apologizing profusely for Nathan's inappropriate behavior toward a stranger. However, Nathan clung to Harold with desperate intensity, speaking in a voice filled with mature understanding about missing their daily walks, their quiet evenings together, and the pain of being sick at the end. The specificity of his emotional expressions suggested genuine memories rather than childhood imagination. Harold found himself deeply moved by Nathan's words, particularly when the child mentioned details about their supposed shared life that only Harold and Buddy could have known. Nathan described Harold's habit of talking to Buddy during their morning walks, sharing his worries about his health and his loneliness since his wife Margaret's death. The boy spoke about specific routes they had taken through the neighborhood and particular spots where Buddy had loved to stop and explore. The most compelling evidence came when Nathan demonstrated knowledge of Harold's daily routines and personal habits that no stranger could have known. The child described how Harold always made 2 cups of coffee in the morning out of habit, even though Margaret was no longer there to share them, and how Buddy would sit beside him during these quiet moments, providing silent comfort and companionship. Nathan spoke about Harold's small apartment with startling accuracy, describing the layout of rooms he had never visited and mentioning specific objects that held sentimental value. He knew about the photograph of Margaret that Harold kept on his nightstand, the way the afternoon sunlight filtered through the kitchen window, and even the squeaky floorboard near the bedroom door that had always announced Buddy's movements through the apartment. Harold was amazed when Nathan mentioned memories that seemed to come from a dog's perspective, describing the world through enhanced senses of smell and hearing that were foreign to human experience. The child spoke about recognizing people by their scent, hearing sounds that humans couldn't perceive, and experiencing the world with an intensity and immediacy that reflected canine consciousness. The boy's knowledge extended to specific incidents from Buddy's life with Harold that had never been shared with anyone else. Nathan described the time Buddy had gotten sick from eating something in the park and how worried Harold had been, spending the entire night watching over his beloved companion. He mentioned Harold's tears when the veterinarian delivered Buddy's terminal cancer diagnosis, and the difficult decision to end the dog's suffering. Jennifer and Mark found themselves grappling with implications that challenged their understanding of consciousness and identity. Nathan's claims that he had been Harold's dog in a previous life seemed impossible, yet his detailed knowledge and emotional authenticity were undeniable. The child's behavior around Harold was unlike anything they had ever witnessed, displaying a loyalty and devotion that seemed to transcend normal human relationships. Dr. Patricia Williams, a child psychologist with experience in unusual cases, was consulted to evaluate Nathan's mental health and the authenticity of his claims. After extensive interviews and observation, Dr. Williams found no evidence of psychological disturbance or fantasy-prone behavior. Nathan's memories appeared to be genuine experiences rather than elaborate constructions or attention-seeking behavior. The investigation expanded when Nathan began demonstrating behaviors and knowledge that seemed to come from his claimed previous existence as Buddy. He showed an uncanny ability to predict Harold's moods and needs, often bringing him water before he asked for it or sensing when the elderly man was feeling particularly sad or lonely. These intuitive responses suggested a deep emotional connection that transcended normal human empathy. Nathan's understanding of dog behavior became even more remarkable as he began interpreting the actions and communications of other dogs in the park. He could predict what dogs were about to do, understand their emotional states, and even mediate conflicts between animals with a skill that amazed professional dog trainers and veterinarians who observed his interactions. Harold found immense comfort in Nathan's presence, feeling as though his beloved companion had somehow returned to him in human form. The elderly man had been struggling with severe depression and loneliness since Buddy's death, but Nathan's recognition and love provided a sense of purpose and connection that he had thought was lost forever. The child's memories included sensory experiences that seemed impossible for a human to possess. Nathan described the world from a dog's sensory perspective, talking about the complexity of scent layers that could tell stories about where people had been and what they had eaten. He spoke about hearing high-frequency sounds that humans couldn't, perceive and feeling vibrations through the ground that provided information about approaching footsteps or vehicles. Dr. Michael Chen, a researcher studying consciousness and interspecies communication, joined the investigation after learning about Nathan's extraordinary claims. Dr. Chen was particularly interested in the child's apparent ability to access memories from a non-human consciousness, which challenged conventional understanding of reincarnation and memory preservation across species boundaries. Nathan's emotional responses to specific locations and objects provided additional evidence for his claims. When Harold took him to the veterinary clinic where Buddy had been treated, the child became visibly distressed, describing memories of being examined on the metal table and receiving injections. His fear reactions seemed to come from genuine traumatic memories rather than normal childhood anxiety about medical settings. The boy also demonstrated knowledge of the neighborhood from a dog's perspective, knowing which houses had cats that would watch from windows where other dogs lived and which yards had the most interesting smells for exploration. His mental map of the area reflected the interests and concerns of a canine mind rather than human priorities and observations. Harold shared with Nathan details about Buddy's final days that the child seemed to recognize with profound sadness. Nathan spoke about feeling tired and painful, wanting to rest, but also wanting to stay with Harold for as long as possible. He described the difficult moment when Harold made the decision to end Buddy's suffering, speaking about understanding and forgiving his beloved owner for that final act of love. The investigation revealed that Nathan's birth date corresponded closely to the time period when Buddy had died, suggesting a possible connection between the dog's death and the child's incarnation. While this timing couldn't prove reincarnation, it added another layer of mystery to an already extraordinary case. Nathan's relationship with Harold evolved into a unique bond that benefited both participants. The elderly man found renewed purpose in caring for and spending time with the child, while Nathan seemed to find peace in reconnecting with his claimed former owner. Their interactions displayed a depth of understanding and communication that transcended normal relationships between strangers. The case attracted attention from researchers studying animal consciousness and the possibility of interspecies reincarnation. Nathan's detailed memories and behaviors provided insights into how non-human consciousness might persist after death and potentially incarnate in human form, challenging assumptions about the boundaries between different types of sentient beings. Jennifer and Mark worked with child psychologists to help Nathan integrate his apparent past life memories with his current human identity. The challenge was acknowledging the reality of his experiences while ensuring that his identification as a former dog didn't interfere with his development as a human child. Nathan's knowledge of canine psychology and behavior became so remarkable that local animal shelters began consulting with him about difficult cases involving traumatized or aggressive dogs. His ability to understand and communicate with troubled animals provided insights that helped rehabilitate pets that might otherwise have been considered hopeless cases. The spiritual implications of Nathan's case were profound, suggesting that consciousness might not be limited by species boundaries, and that the bonds of love between humans and animals could transcend death itself. His story provided comfort to pet owners who had lost beloved companions, offering hope that their relationships might continue in unexpected ways. Harold's life was transformed by Nathan's presence, as the lonely widower found new meaning in his relationship with the child who claimed to be his former dog. Their daily meetings in the park became a source of joy and healing for both, demonstrating the power of love to bridge impossible gaps between different forms of existence. Nathan's case was documented extensively by researchers studying consciousness and interspecies communication. Video recordings of his interactions with Harold and his demonstrations of canine knowledge provided compelling evidence for the survival of consciousness across species boundaries and the possibility that love transcends all conventional limitations. Nathan grew older. His memories of being Buddy gradually became less vivid, though his intuitive understanding of dogs and his special bond with Harold remained strong. The documentation of his early years provided valuable insights for researchers studying consciousness, while offering hope that the connections we make with animal companions might be more enduring than traditionally believed. The investigation also revealed the depth of emotional bonds that can exist between humans and animals, challenging assumptions about the relative importance of different types of relationships. Nathan's memories suggested that his love for Harold as Buddy had been so profound that it had transcended death and even species boundaries to ensure their reunion. Harold lived his remaining years with a sense of wonder and gratitude, believing that his beloved companion had somehow found a way to return to him in human form. The relationship provided healing for his grief while demonstrating that love might be the fundamental force that connects all conscious beings across the boundaries of species and lifetimes. Nathan's story challenged researchers to expand their understanding of consciousness beyond human-centric models, suggesting that awareness and memory might be universal properties that could persist across different forms of embodiment. His case provided evidence that the boundaries between species might be less absolute than previously assumed. The boy who claimed to be a dog in his past life had opened new avenues for understanding consciousness, memory, and the profound connections that can exist between different forms of sentient life. His relationship with Harold demonstrated that love truly knows no boundaries, and that the bonds we form with our animal companions might be more significant and enduring than we ever imagined. Years later, Nathan maintained his special connection to dogs and his bond with Harold, serving as living proof that consciousness might flow between different forms of life, and that the love between humans and animals could survive even death. His case continues to inspire research into the nature of awareness, while providing comfort to anyone who has ever loved an animal companion. The extraordinary story of Nathan and Harold challenged conventional understanding of consciousness, while celebrating the profound bonds that connect all living beings. Their relationship proved that love transcends not only death but even the boundaries between species, ensuring that no connection forged in love is ever truly lost. If this incredible story of a boy who remembered being a dog and recognized his former owner has touched your heart and opened your mind to the profound connections that exist between all conscious beings, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories that prove love transcends every boundary, and that the bonds we form with our beloved animals may be more eternal than we ever dared to hope.